Welcome back to Alone Together podcast,
where the loners aren't alone.
I'm Journey.
I'm Layla.
And today is our special 10th episode. Wow, that's kind of crazy. 10 episodes barely since August. That's also crazy. But anyway, we decided for today that we're going to redo our first episode, basically, but in a reflection way, more so talk about how we redefine loneliness in this year and how 2022 taught us more about, well, what that means to us and why we started this podcast yet again.
Yep. I think that the definition of loneliness is constantly changing as you grow. It gets deeper. I feel like we say this about every emotion, but it's just true for every emotion. Like as you grow, it's going to get deeper, but especially with loneliness, because I think as you grow and on your personal journey and on your career path, you're going to lose more people. It's going to get more lonely. But if the growth internally matches the growth externally, then you'll never really feel alone.
True.
I think that's one of the main things that I learned in this year.
I think 2022 was probably like one of the worst years I've had, no cap, yet. And I feel like this year, one of the main things, like, how do I say this? I don't really believe in loneliness. Like, yes, it is an emotion that we all feel, obviously. But I think that it's like one of those emotions that's like hella preventable. Like, you're not alone. Like, if you have yourself, you're not alone. But I think that this year, I really learned how to be okay with like being alone. But also, like, when I say that, I mean like, this is difficult to explain, but I feel like, okay, this year I think I lost a lot of people, like, and a lot of friendships changed and how they used to be. Like, I used to be super close with someone and then now I'm not anymore. Like, we got older and things start changing. Or like at the beginning of the year when I literally lost like all my friends at school, like that was loneliness for sure, because I didn't have like not a single soul to hang out with on campus. But like in those times of like being lonely is when I really learned about myself and had to like take a step back and be like, well, what was my fault and why this happened? And like that can even cause you to feel lonely, because it's like, dang, I thought I knew myself, or dang, like maybe I'm the problem too. It's not just them. And it can make you feel lonely, but I don't know if lonely is the right term for it.
Yeah. Because I was going to say, at the beginning of the year, I wasn't like the definition of lonely. Like I had friends around me constantly. I was constantly around people. People were inviting me out. But I think I didn't really start to feel lonely per se until halfway through the year, or like the end of the year. And I probably still had people around me, but it was just the fact that I kind of knew that I had to let go of one person specifically that was a big part of my life in order to grow on my own. And I think when you really make that mental note that you want to grow on your own and actually work on yourself, that's when I started to feel lonely. But I wouldn't, like you said, I wouldn't necessarily say lonely.
Yeah.
It was just like, I really have to take a step back from everything and like reflect on myself and see what inside of me is causing these things around me to happen and stop my own suffering.
Yeah.
Because I think, we're all in control of our suffering. We know what things cause our suffering. And sometimes we continue to go back into those cycles. And when you make the choice to really grow and let go of those cycles, that's when it starts to feel lonely. But it also is a good feeling, because it's like, I know that if I'm consistent with this and I keep doing what I know I have to do, then I will be at where I want to be at. But with growth does come, pain, healing, and loss.
Yeah, I just posted on my Instagram today. Just remember that growth feels like loss. And that's so true. Like, dang, like I'm trying to save it for our reflection episode, but I just feel like I really went through so much, like in terms of relationships. But when I say relationships, I mean like every relationship, like with every single person that I have a friendship with. Like, that's a relationship. Friendships are relationships. Like,
sometimes more than like a romantic relationship.
yes.
Like you could be in a friendship for years,
Yes.
someone that you really depended
and
on.
it takes work.
And it takes work. And then like to not have, sometimes you just don't talk to those people at all anymore. And they could be such a big part of your life.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was about to say. Like, I think the whole reason that it was so hard for me, like losing those friends of mine at the beginning of the year, was because I was with them every single day. And like, they became literally like a huge part of my life, because especially in college, like, you know, you get so used to being around people and like seeing them all the time and doing everything together, to the point where it's like, when that's completely stripped away from me, it was like, I don't have nobody. Like, and I had to really learn how to be okay with being by myself again. Like, back home in Arizona, that's all I ever did. Like, I was always by myself. I was always in my room, like doing whatever in the house. I did not go out at all. So coming to LA and like being out, being around people, that was like, whew, on me. And then, but I got used to it. So then that being taken away, I was just like, well, what do I do now? Like,
yeah,
because I'm not trying to be in my room in college all day.
Exactly. And I think that's one thing that we both share in common. It's like, even when I'm feeling really down or feeling lonely, if I'm being alone in my room and not doing anything, makes me feel 100 times worse. Like, I will get down on myself for being down and being in my room and not being productive. And I'm just one of those people that, like, I don't think it's possible for me to just not do anything with my life and just sit there, because that makes me feel 100 times worse than if I was actually trying, even if I'm getting rejected or doing bad or whatever the case may be. I'd rather be working towards something.
For real.
So,
for real, exactly. Like, exactly that. I hate, you said that perfectly. Like, I think back home, like, was a different time in my life. Like, I could be in my room doing this for hours. Right, exactly. But now it's like, well, I'm in college. I'm trying to change the world. I'm trying to start my career. Like, I can't just be sitting around doing nothing. But what I learned is that I don't need to have somebody around to do that.
Exactly.
Like, all the things that I'm going to accomplish in this life, majority of them, I'm going to accomplish alone. So I better get used to being alone now and accepting that comfort in myself more than ever, because this is the time more than ever that people are also learning themselves, also getting to know themselves and how they work with others. So I can't even really get mad if like stuff hits the fan, because it's just like, well, you going through your life, I'm going through mine. Like, you know, I can't really control like everybody else.
And right now, since we're in college, we get like a rare opportunity, I feel like, to all be together and spend so much time together. But we all have different career paths. So when we graduate, I think it's going to be really different. Like, we're all going to be working on our own stuff, going on our own paths. We're not going to be able to be around each other as much, but we're going to be around more people that want to do the things that we want to do. But it's really nice to have like so many hardworking people on different paths that we can all hang out with, even though we don't want to do the same things. It's like, I see that you have drive, that Ryan has drive, and all these other people that we know, like, they really have passion for what they want to do. So it's really nice to be around that.
That just reminded me, like, I was going to say that that's a huge thing for me that I realized being alone is like, I can't be friends with people who don't have drive. Like, I can't surround myself with people who don't have that, like, that grit, like that. I want it, bro. Like, because how are you going to accomplish anything and you don't have that? Like, I just really realized that this stuff is going to take me doing it myself. And not that to say I can't depend on people and I can't ask for help, but shoot, I can't really much. I feel like you just got to know how to go about this stuff yourself and know when to ask for help, know when you need somebody to help you, know when you when you need someone. But majority of this stuff, I think, like, you can do that on your own, but it's harder. But maybe that's just the type of independent person I am.
And that's just reality, honestly. As one thing I learned throughout college is that being surrounded by so many people that have been blessed with so many opportunities, just like off their parents or like being born in wealth, really, I think I started to realize that they're like, they don't want to give you opportunities. Like, even if you're their closest friend, like, they're not just going to hand you an opportunity or be like, go out of their way to give you an opportunity, because they expect you to already have all the stuff that it takes to be in that opportunity on your own. And the reality of it is, like, most people don't want to help you like that unless it's really your family. So if you don't have like family or something like that that's gonna put you in a position and just like sneak you in there, you really do have to do it on your own. Like, there's a lot of resources out there to help you get to the positions you want to be, and people that do want to help, but you have to go search those resources yourself. You have to do the research and understand how much these resources are going to help you. Like, for example, there's resources to help you get into different internships if you're African American, and you can look into it and get these resources, but you still have to have the experience. You still have to work towards what you want to do. It's not like they're going to do everything for you. So I don't think it's really necessarily like an independent mindset set, but that's just the reality of it. Like, if you want to do something, you have to have the background, you have to have the knowledge. You can't just, get a random opportunity. And I think a lot of people are looking for a miracle, and it doesn't happen like that. Like, you got to put the work in too.
You brought up family, and I was hesitant to put this in my notes, but like, this real. I think that's something that's huge for me and taught me a lot. That this year is like the isolation I felt from my family really was a different type of like, I got to get this on my own. Like, I didn't feel lonely, but it was just like isolated, maybe like, okay, like, it's not going to be from everybody's just people. Like, we're all just people battling our own stuff. Not everybody has that support from their family. Some people have it, but things start to change and people start to move different. And it's like, I can't really, like I said, I can't control nobody, but what I can do is always stay rooted in myself and be okay with myself, and like be comfortable in like being alone, because the journey is alone. Like, I don't care what nobody says, no matter if you have a partner for the rest of your life. Like, some of the stuff you go through is just purely internal, personal battles. And that stuff really going to shape you into the person you are. And it makes you kind of grow in a different way. And like, as you grow like that in life, you just go naturally lose people. Like, I feel like there's just so many things have changed in my life that it's just kind of like, at this point, all right, but as long as I'm comfortable with myself and I rocking with myself, then all those other changes will be adaptable.
Yeah.
But it's harder when you see the loneliness as negative, or if you let the loneliness consume you.
Yeah. I think that one thing that's changed for me, as far as looking into loneliness, is rather than basing my love for myself off of my accomplishments and the external things that are going on in my life, it's really being rooted in who I am and not letting external things define me at all. And I feel like that is the biggest way to cure like feelings of loneliness, because it doesn't matter where I am. I could be like in Africa or in Costa Rica or here, but as long as I'm rooted in myself, or like even working a minimum wage job versus working like a job that I really want, but I don't let that affect me or define who I am, as long as I know myself. And I think that's a really big thing that changed for me as far as loneliness, because I do think I used to like put a lot of pressure on myself to do all these things and have all these achievements, and if I didn't meet up to my own standards, then I felt like not myself, and I would get down on myself, and that would make me feel like lonely or like outside of myself. But I had to learn that it's more about like who I am rather than what's going on, and all those things will come as I grow.
Facts. I feel like also, how do I say this? Being around people who let the loneliness consume them completely changed my outlook as well.
Yeah.
Like, seeing people I'm close to just go down a rabbit hole because they feel lonely. But then what does that do? It just makes you isolate yourself more. So then you feel more lonely. And it's like, then you're closing yourself off to people and shutting yourself off to help and off to the world, and then you're just stuck. That drives me because, man, I'm not trying to be stuck. I'm not trying to, I've been there before and I'm not trying to go back there. And I think that's a huge thing for me this year. Like, I felt that loneliness heavily at one point and like just no hope. Like, what am I doing? You know, like, how did I let myself get here again? But that's just negative self-talk, honestly, pulling me back down. I think so. I think in those times of loneliness, it's like we need to more than ever be positive to ourselves, more than ever invest in ourselves, more than ever take the time away from people and figure yourself out. Because how are you going to navigate and operate in a room full of people and be yourself if you can't even accept yourself behind closed doors?
Yep. And I think a huge thing for people that may be getting into this rabbit hole or falling down the rabbit hole and you feel yourself going down that rabbit hole is don't go back to things and cycles and people and places that you're comfortable with, that you know are negative to yourself and are just pushing you back, because all that is going to do is make it worse. Like, I'd almost rather them sit in their loneliness and be sad and sulk and be in their room rather than going back in these negative cycles, negative people that are just dragging you down. And that's something I had to work on too. Like, I would, whenever I would feel lonely, instead of just like really taking that time and just feeling that, I feel like I would go back into this cycle and go back to people that I knew weren't good for me. And I really, really completely had to let that go. Like, I'd rather sit there and be lonely than do that ever again, because it just hinders your journey even more. And I just am really tired of things holding me back.
Whew. Heard you, because yeah. Because I think that is huge for me as well this year. Like, it's a different type of feeling knowing that the person ain't, or the cycle ain't good for you, and you keep going back. But then it's like that moment of clarity of why do I keep going back don't come until you're sitting by yourself feeling lonely.
Exactly.
Like, I keep going back because they fulfill me, because they validate me. But is it real? Is it real validation? Is it real fulfillment? Or is it just temporary? Or am I just bored? Or am I lonely? Just insecure? Or am I, like, all of the above? And like you said, it took me releasing people and situations and situationships to understand what I need. And I think I went through that so much this year, is like all those people I lost, all those situations that happened was just because I needed to learn about me, and I needed to learn, you know, this is what I don't like. This is what I do like. And that era of our life is right now. Like, that trial and error stage, like, is now. That's just the right now. And sometimes I think a lot of us get so caught up in like the cycle, but what I'm trying to say is basically like the forever. Like, we're in something and we think it's going to happen forever. We think it's going to last forever, but reality is nothing lasts forever. Everything's temporary. And especially at this age of our life, because we are shedding our skin like every few months. Like, we're becoming new versions of ourselves so frequently, so often. These situations that we're going through, each time we come out of one, we're becoming a new person. Yeah. And I think people be trying to hold on to that stuff, but it's like, nah. Like, once you release and once it's done, like, that is the past. That is a past version of yourself. You gotta let go. And then people that was in that era of your life, they gotta go too. And that's just how it is. As much as it sucks, like, life.
Yeah. And I think who you surround yourself with is such a huge thing. Like, if you're around people that constantly speak negatively, that's going to reflect in the way that you think about things. And I feel like I'm so tired of being in that like negative state, or being around people that are negative. Like, yes, maybe we don't have all the opportunities that other people have, or maybe, you know, things in life weren't as great as we wanted them to be. But at the end of the day, like, are we just going to sit here and sulk in our pain or are we going to use that to drive us? And I think that's the difference between people. Some people use that to drive them, and some people just get caught up in it. And I think that's another cycle, like getting caught up in the pain, constantly reliving those emotions. That actually reflects in your brain pathways. Like neurologically, you could form pathways in your brain that are constantly making you relive these traumatic experiences and feel these negative emotions every single day. And I don't want to live like that, because you could change that about yourself as well. Like you could, just as fast as you can make yourself think something negative, you can make yourself think something positive, and both of them take work.
Yeah, that was God right there that you just said that, because my mother said that to me just an hour ago. You need to stop replaying stuff in your mind, because it's just going to keep you there. It's going to keep your emotions in that exact place that where you were, when you can just let it go and move on. Because, replaying the bad ain't going to do nothing for you. It happened and you got to move through. And what I was going to say earlier also was, I think a huge thing in 2022 for me also was like all those situations that happened to me and all those things that happened to me and losing those people just really made me put up a wall. Like I was tired of like letting or opening myself to people and letting myself like be myself around people, because maybe they'll get to know the real me and it's not really who they thought. Or maybe they know the real me and it's like too much for them to handle. Or just like that. But then I started to realize that just makes me feel lonely.
Yeah.
Like closing myself off to people is not going to help me at all. How am I going to get to know a cool individual, get to know another personality, grow as a person myself if I'm closing off myself to the world, to people? And I think that's such a huge thing that we just do as humans, is we get hurt, whatever, and we just put up a wall. And, it's natural. And that's still something I'm working on, but we can't do that, because it's only going to it's going to cause us pain, because we're going to probably get in that situation, replay the situation all the time, or wonder why this happened the way it did, or get mad at the world because people suck. But face it, accept it, and move on, because you're just going to cause yourself to be alone. And it's going to
makes it worse.
Yeah. And it's going to make it harder for people to want to be around you if you just close yourself off. And, it's a double-edged sword, but it's like those people who are meant to be there and meant to get you, and, they going to stick around.
Yeah. And I think one thing I also started to do, because I did the same thing, like putting up a wall, because I feel like I've been through some traumatic relationships, not just like relationships, but friendships, all relationships, stuff like that, that really broke my trust and made me not want to, open myself up to other people, because those are the people that were closest to me. And
that fear of abandonment is cray.
Yeah. And one thing I learned is like, instead of looking at other people and being like, dang, like you really did this to me, like, and judging them, I just have to look internally all the time now. And when I look internally and I realize like when I met these people at one point in my life, I met these people and what I was going through, it all starts to make sense. And as I grow, it's like attracting people. It doesn't always necessarily have to be like who you are attracting a negative person. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person necessarily, but it could be something as simple as where you were at that time. And I think a huge thing for me now is being only in places and events and stuff like that where I would want to meet someone, because obviously if you're at a low vibrational event, you're going to meet low vibrational people. So, you really have to separate. And it's like, if you're also sitting in your room sulking and like the only way you're meeting people is online, because like that's all you have when you're in your room, like of course it's probably going to be some bad people. I think a huge thing is like, if you're going to events and places that are things that actually interest you, like for example, I really love museums. I've been going to a lot of museums lately, but meeting people at places like that, it's going to be people like-minded. It'll probably be like someone that I would actually want to talk to. And I met a lot of bad people in my time in LA, but I also understand that at that time I was around bad places, and like
Mhm.
those weren't places that I probably should have been, and that's why I attracted those people. So, it's not that I blame myself, but it's also like if I want to grow and meet people that I don't have to have my wall up, because we can also have our wall up because we feel their energy and we know like this
Mhm.
is someone I don't want to open up to.
Mhm.
So just being in the right places
Mhm.
and places that actually match your energy and frequency.
Facts. I was gonna say something and I kind of lost my train. Oh, I was gonna say that I think, yeah, when you said looking internally with relationships and with people, it's like I always look at how did the relationship slash friendship come to be? Like, why did I become friends with this person? And that's something I've always asked in my life. Like, did it start honest? Did it start because I just vibe with their frequency? Or did it start because, like, I don't know, I want to be them, or like I want to help them, or I want to save them, or I'm trying to, it may be, but it's like those aren't real intentions.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's not a solid, good intention, then it's going to end bad. Or down the line, it's going to unravel.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a scary thing to admit. Like,
but it's true.
It's true.
It's so true.
As we get older, it's like, why am I connecting with this person right now? Because truthfully, I don't need to. Like, I feel like at this point, I'm so comfortable with being by myself that I'm too comfortable with being by myself and too comfortable with doing things on my own. But I also have the people close to me that I know are going to be around forever. And it's hard, like, to make new friends.
Yeah, that's another thing. I was going to say, like, as much as we talk about being alone, we've always had each other. So it's also like, it's not like we've ever just been like no friends at all. It's like we've always had each other. So that's a blessing.
That's a blessing.
And it's also like, dang, do I have my wall up because I already know I have my best friend? So I'm like, I don't really need to talk to y'all.
Yeah, in a way, like a lot of people don't have the friendship we have. Like,
yeah,
what we have is truly special.
It's crazy.
A lot of people will never experience this in their life.
I know. It's crazy.
The reason we have each other is because we be feeling like outcasts.
And all the stuff we go through with like, other people, it just shows you like,
if we didn't have each other, where would I be right now?
If we didn't have each other, all the like friendships we lost would just hit so much harder. But since I had Journey, I'm kind of like, I don't care.
Oh God,
but for real though, I was like,
or you find yourself like, me and Layla would never go through
exactly.
This.
That's what I'd be thinking.
And that's how I know, like,
is it real? That's like low key. It sounds bad. You're not supposed to compare, but this is an amazing friendship. So why would I not compare?
Literally, like, if you know real, I think you have every right to compare what you think is unreal, because for real.
But that's like, a huge thing. How did the relationship start? I saw this girl talking the other day, and she was saying like in romantic relationships, if you weren't feeling good at first, or like you were feeling insecure in it at first, it's never gonna feel good to you, because you're like, if that's how it started, like you're always gonna have those feelings subconsciously, even if like the person completely changes. And I completely agree with that.
Like you got to go into it sure as hell.
Yeah, and with friendships, it's the same thing. Like if you're starting a friendship with a trauma bond, or starting a friendship with, I don't know, you're in a horrible place in your life and they're in a horrible place in your life and you're bonding over that, you're never gonna have a good friendship.
And if you're looking, or you became friends with the friend because they're fulfilling your loneliness, that is because you become friends with someone to take away your pain, but you can't rely on an individual
and that's too much pressure on them, and that's selfish on your part, because you're putting that pressure on them, and
you just can't rely on nobody, period, in all aspects of life, but especially when it comes to emotional
fulfilling.
Yeah, because they don't even know. Half the time you may becoming friends with the person because they make you feel less lonely, but do they know that?
Yeah.
Do they know that you're just looking to them to feel better about yourself? Or are you actually being a friend? Or are you depending? And that's a complete difference. Dependence versus friendship.
I think people that have voids. I will say everybody has voids, but people fill them in different ways. And I think the people that are the most on, I don't know, their self journey fulfill their voids internally with themselves rather than outside sources. But people that are looking to other people to fill their voids, I think a lot of times they like aren't self aware that they're doing that. They're putting all this emotional pressure on someone, and when they get upset or they're feeling down, they get so angry at those people because they're not aware that they're using them to make themselves feel happy. And I think that's a huge thing as well. Like, if you're not aware of why you're in a friendship or why you're in a relationship or what you're really looking for in that friendship, and you can't be honest with yourself, then, you know, I don't know, like, you're probably putting a lot of pressure on that other person.
And it's like, excuse me, when you doing that, being conscious about it versus unconscious, either way is bad, but one of them is worse than the other. And unconscious, or I think consciously doing that to someone is way better, because don't put them through that. And I don't know, it's tough. It's tough because I think after so long, it's like, then you get so used to it. And then when you realize, you know, maybe the friendship isn't like backed by good intentions, and it's like, well, how I'm in too deep now. And then that fear of abandonment, that fear of feeling lonely without them again creeps in, which is why it's just bad from the jump. Because it's just going to circle right back and you're going to be at square one yet again.
So what would you say are some healthy ways and healthy things that you do and other people can do to fill those voids and not put that pressure on someone else to like fulfill their loneliness?
I think taking time with yourself, like, but I don't just mean like going on a walk. I mean like taking time to actually learn you, like taking time to evaluate in every situation when you thought someone was the cause or you thought someone was the fault or hurting you, how are you hurting them? How are you the fault too? Because everything goes both ways in majority of situations. What did you do acting out of emotion that could have affected them?
What was in your control?
Yeah, what was in your control? What can you control on a daily? And also evaluating those periods of loneliness. What caused it? And how do you want to get yourself out? Because no one else is going to.
And how to prevent it next time.
Yeah, not everything's preventable because life just be throwing stuff at us, but I feel like, how can you make yourself strong enough to be able to deal with anything that comes your way is what it is. And like, you know, maybe journaling, maybe, I don't know, doing stuff that you would normally want to do with someone else, doing it by yourself, like building the confidence of being alone. Because if you're confident in being alone, like, can't nothing stop you, truly, and can't nothing phase you as long as you are cool with doing you and doing on your own, because not everyone's reliable.
Yeah.
Making yourself your biggest liability. You can rely on others, but it's not going to get you anywhere. But relying on yourself and knowing that you can go get it yourself, like, that's fulfilling.
That is fulfillment, because I think all you have is your word with yourself. People can say anything to you, and you could say anything to people, but if you're saying something to yourself and you don't fulfill it, you're going to feel bad about yourself. But if you do fulfill it, then it's like building trust with yourself. As someone who has been down the rabbit hole, I will say, like, I always get myself out of it. And I think it goes with my periods in school, because like I'll feel myself go down the rabbit hole, and then it's like I have to catch up, and then at the end of the quarter, like, I'm doing all this work just to catch up because I was down for a week or down for 2 weeks. But I think the biggest thing when you're feeling down and you feel yourself going down this rabbit hole is, we always talk about meditation, we talk about journaling, we talk about exercising, and we've talked about how it's proven to help you with scientific studies. And I think,
let me be the scientific study.
And I think everyone knows that. Like, everyone knows that these things are effective with your mental health. But I think the biggest problem with people when they're in the rabbit hole is consistency. I think even people with depression, even people like myself, like with anxiety and depression that go down this rabbit hole constantly, we know that those things help. I know that those things help. I've done all of those things. And it's easy for me to do those things when I'm feeling good, but it's the consistency when you're down. It's doing that every day when you're going down the rabbit hole, and like just being consistent every day with it, because we know that those things help. So I think pushing yourself to stay consistent even when you're down, like,
yeah,
instead of trying all these different things and, oh, well, meditation didn't make me feel good today, so, screw it, I give up. Or journaling didn't make me feel good today. It's no, every day when I wake up, I'm going to journal, I'm going to meditate. Every day I'm going to do those things because I know overall it makes you feel better. Even if I'm down today, I could change that tomorrow. If I keep doing this is my routine now, and I know it helps.
We have to really unlearn to learn. And I think people don't get that. We have to unlearn our own patterns in order to grow. And how people act towards us truly has nothing to do with us. So the way I see it nowadays is another person can't make me feel lonely, because they're purely operating out of projecting and operating out of the level that they know how to operate. They may not be at the same frequency as me. They may have gone through more painful situations than me, so they act a certain way. Whatever the case may be, I can't let somebody else's actions and words get me down, because truly I never know what they're going through, and vice versa. But that also comes with, having that level of self-awareness and being able to know, that's you too. It's not just other people who are gonna hurt you in this life. You're hurting others too sometimes. And that is strength in knowing that and accepting I'm not perfect, and there's gonna be times when, maybe I'm the cause and I'm the reason I'm lonely. But it's up to you as well to get yourself out of that and learn from it and grow and mature from it. I think.
And it's the application.
If
you know something about yourself, or you caused someone pain, or you did this, how are you gonna take that knowledge and apply it in the future, or take that knowledge and apply it today? I think, we, like I said, all these things help, and you're talking about how you could change your ways when you're down. But I think people don't realize, of course, you can't just completely change your life and be a billionaire tomorrow just by doing this one thing. But I think, tomorrow is a new day, and you can wake up and start a completely different pattern and start a completely different self-discovery journey in one day. And I think people are waiting for something, and it's just what are you waiting for? Waiting for the new year, waiting for this,
and dwelling.
Just
people love to dwell.
You have to create these habits now. It's not it's going to completely change your life, but it could change your mindset on your daily life that's making you feel down. It could change how you feel tomorrow. It could change how you feel today. And you just have to want to put that work in.
In fact, you got to want to get better. You got to want to not feel lonely no more. And it's easy to get comfortable in those feelings. It's easy to get comfortable in, like me, I'll admit it. I'm so comfortable in doing everything myself that, I just don't even think about other people sometimes, or I'm so comfortable in just being solo, but that's not always the greatest thing. Sometimes you do need others, and sometimes it's okay to accept those feelings of loneliness in order to be unlonely, and to know maybe this is why, so I cannot do that again. And it's hard because humans just love to be in the past. I think they love to dwell on what happened and how bad everything is. But the reality is the world is bad. The world is pretty freaking bad. So how are you going to be the good?
And there's also, while the world is bad, there's also so many good people. And I feel it takes work to find those people, and it takes work internally to attract those people.
But talk about
if you're just always
Yeah.
constantly thinking about the bad, having a negative outlook, what do you think? What type of people do you think are going to want to be around you? Do you think someone that's positive and loves life is going to want to be around you? No.
You attract what you are, and I think people really fail to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
People, like, not even trying to be rude when I say this, but I get frustrated with people who are constantly like, why is this happening to me? People are terrible to me, all this stuff. Like, no, it's happening to everybody, but how are you acting towards the world, and what are you putting out to get that back? If you're constantly saying, I hate everything, people are terrible, like, da da da, that's all that's going to come back to you.
Yeah.
That's all that's going to keep flowing in your life, because that's all you keep lowering your vibration to. If you don't hire yourself and better yourself, then you're just going to be here and you're going to attract here. But taking that time to get to know yourself and better yourself is just going to attract the people who are doing the same thing. And you are going to slowly see yourself gravitating towards the people who are doing the same thing and wanting to talk to the people and just, wow, you're just like me. Oh, I wonder why.
Yeah.
You know? And yeah, I think that's huge. I think that's so huge. Like, I think it was really hard for me this year to break down that wall and like want to be social again, want to let people know Journey again. But then I was just like, as comfortable as I am now with being alone, like, I can be around other people, and I may still feel alone when I'm around other people, but at least I know I bettered myself in those times of being by myself, so that when people do get to know me, they're knowing the best version yet of myself.
Exactly. And I think there's still ways to protect your energy when you're around people. Like, I think you could still be true to self without completely opening yourself up.
Facts.
And giving away parts of yourself to people.
Facts.
Like, I did a homeless drive recently, and shout out to my volunteers. They helped me out passing out these packs. But one of my friends after the homeless drive was like, why'd you talk to them like a coworker? And I'm like, that's just how I was talking. Like, they're my homegirls. They're helping me out, but you don't always have to share everything about your life to everyone. And it's like, those are still my friends and we're cool, but like, I don't know, you could choose how
You're
you
not the same
communicate
around
with
everybody.
people. Yeah, but you can still be a positive person. You can still be your best self around them, but you don't necessarily have to completely open up your whole life. And honestly, I feel like when you're really like okay with yourself and you're healing yourself, then you're not going to be even your closest
You're not
friends.
going to want
You're
to
not
let
going to
everybody.
want to trauma dump on them and tell them, oh, this is everything I'm going through, because you know that in order to make yourself feel better, you got to do that yourself. So why am I even telling you that I feel terrible of all these reasons that I feel terrible? Like, no, I need to work on that myself. And yeah, so why would you tell that to a stranger?
Facts. It's all about bettering yourself and embracing the solitude. The solitude's been good to me. I think that was one of my captions on my Instagram post, like, because it has. This year, at one point, the solitude was beating me down, but then I had to change my perspective and realize that actually it's really helping me. And maybe losing all those people was what I needed to get myself to the next level and open my eyes and realize what I need to do for myself. For me, for my career, for my future.
Exactly. I don't think if I was still friends with the people that I was friends with at the beginning of the year, then I would have so much clarity on how much I need to do to prepare for the future. I think at that time, like, I don't know, when I let go of one specific relationship or one friendship that was like negative to me, I literally felt like the biggest release, and it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. And it's like, sometimes you need that, but it's hard when you're so comfortable in it. It's hard when you're so comfortable in it, especially when you have the savior complex, which I think a lot of like healing people tend to have. Like, you feel like you can help people, but just as much as going and trying to find other people to help yourself doesn't work, you can't be that for someone else. And I think that's a huge thing that people need to realize. And you don't need to be putting that much pressure on yourself to be helping other people.
Facts.
Especially when it comes to like issues that are out of your scope. mental health issues when you're not a mental health expert, grief when you're not a mental health expert. You can't be Jesus. You can't do this
Right.
for these people. Like, they have to want it themselves.
Right. You can't be Jesus. And as much as us good people with good hearts want to save everyone, that is not life. Because think about all the time people tried to save you and it didn't work.
Exactly.
It don't operate like that. But taking the time to be by yourself is the only way, or taking the time to love yourself and be comfortable with every part of you that you may like and dislike is the only way that you're going to be able to avoid loneliness. I don't think I feel lonely at all anymore.
Yeah, that's not even the word that I would use.
I don't experience that emotion anymore because now after this year, I know how it feels to be there. It's like I don't really let myself get there. Neither do I let myself be consumed with the thought that I'm alone. Because I'm not alone. I have myself. I have God. I have you. I have my parents. And that's all I need.
Yeah.
That's more than I can ask for. Because some people truly do have nothing.
And depending on people will only make you feel like you're alone. Because you're allowing those people that are with you when you lose them to make you feel alone. So that's putting like your dependence on them. I can't even give someone that dependence no more. Nobody can leave my life and make me feel alone. Like, it is what it is.
Yeah, you got to lower that dependency rate. And you got to lower your expectations.
No expectations. Don't lower them.
Just don't have any. I was going to say that for our next episode because I'm really going to talk about that.
But next episode, we will be reflecting on the entire year and talking about how to come into this new year and be a better version of yourself.
Yeah.
But
true reflection.
We are really glad we got to reflect on reframing loneliness because this is the reason why we started this podcast. That feeling of feeling alone, feeling down. Mm-hmm. That's why we started this. And to be able to come to this point where we're saying we don't even feel alone no more is really amazing and beautiful. So we hope that the things that we say and the things that we talk about can help others feel the same way.
Last thing I'm going to say is, as much as y'all may feel like nobody gets you in this world, you get you. And at least you understand you, because a lot of people don't even know that. So on that note, make sure y'all follow all the social media. Is going to be linked down in the description box. Subscribe and, continue to support us.
Thank you guys.
Bye.